Okay, folks, let's talk about the strategic management model. Hopefully, everything works the way it's supposed to now. But this model is designed to help you understand your entire issue, the entire course. You know, the strategic management model actually ties every course you had in your degree program together. And as I said before, you can use this for a not-for-profit, for a government agency, or for a for-profit agency. You can use it in your case analysis. Most importantly, you can use it in your organization to be successful. So kick back, relax, and let's talk about the strategic management model. This is a model I put together over the years with the help of a lot of textbooks, a lot of experts, and a lot of reading. And basically, this is how you look at your company 24/7. It's a revolving model that is a continuously updating model that you use a very, very, very good analysis to implement uh, things that you need to implement in your company. You take the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats that you got from analyzing everything, and then you can create a competitive advantage and fix the problems that you have. More importantly, by understanding everything about your company and the competition at all times, you can make decisions on the fly. You know, if all of a sudden we're in a growing economy now, everything seems to be working. So if you get an opportunity to expand your business, it's nice to know if you have the financial resources, the human resources, the technology resources. If you keep this model updated, then you can make something happen in a hurry and not have to worry about problems. Okay, so over the model's simple, and I'm going to take you through the model real fast, and then I'm going to take you through the parts of the model. But the model is kind of a guideline, like all models. It's a guideline. On the first thing you do is define the business. If I ask you to come into my company and you know nothing about it, then you want to define the business. You want to know the mission of the company, the vision of the company. You want to know their major institutional goals, because every company has major institutional goals that all the departments write their goals to so that they meet the needs of the company, the strategic needs of the company. You want to know the values that they expound. You want to know the philosophy of the company and leadership. You want to know about the leadership. You want to know the ethics they respond to on a daily basis. And you would want to read everything about them. You would want to read their operations manual, their history. You'd want to talk to people. You'd want to see everything measured. You'd want to put the employees in a room and talk to them. You'd want to put the management in a room and talk to them. You'd want to put them all together in a room and talk to them. And you would define the business right up front. Okay? Then you go into a very good, extremely detailed external and internal analysis. And the way you do that is starting with Porter's six forces model, which is this model in the middle down here at the bottom. And then the way I teach this course, I believe you start with the five things. If you look up Porter's six forces in Google or in your book, you'll find it's Porter's five forces. But he's added a sixth force called stakeholders, and I make it Porter's six forces. But you start with the basics, the threat of substitute products, the threats of new entrants to the market, the suppliers, the buyer, and the stakeholders, all the elements that surrounds the company in Porter's six forces. But the major force that Porter has is the firm itself and all the competition surrounding it. So if you look to the left in that box that says analysis models, there's a whole list of models, and it's not inclusive. There's a lot more of things that you've learned in other classes or will learn in classes that will help you analyze a firm. And you'll find that some of them become repetitive. You'll start analyzing an environmental analysis model, and you'll find out that when you get to finance, you've already done it. But that's okay. It all blends together with the ultimate goal of you understanding everything you possibly can know about your company. And then at the end, you come up with a good strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Detailed, quantitative, and information that will help you create a competitive advantage for your company. After that, this is something I put in there. You don't see it in a lot of books, but I believe it belongs there. There's a couple books that use this. Um, the um, budget. You need to understand your budget for next year. You need to know your production goals for next year so that you understand how much money you have coming in and how much you already have obligated to spend. And then your technology needs, your human needs, education needs, training needs, and anything else that might come in handy. So once you've done that, you identify the strategy. Don't spend any time changing the strategy, but you will you have to identify the strategy. Once you've done that, then you take your strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats, and the implementation, and you take your strengths and opportunities and create a competitive advantage with them. You take the weaknesses and threats and you try to fix those. One second. Okay. The last part is the controls. The controls, everything that you measure. And all of that is a continuous feedback into the analysis so that this model is ongoing and you continue to update the strategic plan for your company. So this is a model, and briefly I want to take you through. This is Porter's 5 forces or 6 forces. If you look at it, you've got threats to substitute products, you've got stakeholders, suppliers, threats and new interests in the market, and buyers. And then in the middle is everything about the company and the competition. And to illustrate that, the threats to substitute products, the threat's high when switching costs are low, performance of the substitute is equal, threats low when switching costs are high. And a good example of that, we in education use the learning management system. Here at Central Michigan, we use Blackboard. Okay, so Blackboard is a product that we pay a lot of money for, and the students understand it, and everybody works hard on it. So if we want to change, there's a cost to that. We use this at Hodges University, at Central Michigan, and probably about 1,000 other universities around the country. But there are substitutes out there. There's Canvas, there's eCollege, there's several other ones, but the cost is high. So it's not, Blackboard doesn't have to worry a lot about a substitute product. So the threats of new entrants to the market, there are barriers for entry. You don't see a lot of new airlines popping up because it's expensive to buy airplanes and flying the airlines, and it's just a very expensive proposition. But if you open a mom and pop bookstore, you can have a competitor next door in a heartbeat. So product barriers are deterrents to entry barriers are deterrents to threats and new entry to the market. The bargaining power suppliers, Walmart can tell the supplier, look, I want 1 million of these and I'll pay you $1 a piece. And by gosh, the supplier will find a way to make it happen. But if you own a smaller business, you can't do that. And so the bargaining power depends on the number of suppliers in the industry, the cost to switch suppliers, ability to integrate, the uniqueness of the product, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot of things that dictate the bargaining power of suppliers. And then there's the buyers. The bargaining power of buyers, how many are there in the market? The sensitivity to price. Raising or lowering your price just a little bit can make a big difference. What information is available? What's the marketing success? All these things play in to the buyers. And so those are Porter's 6 forces. The last one is the stakeholders. And the stakeholders, there are a lot of stakeholders in your company. There are your employees, your customers, the environment around you, the shareholders of your company, the civic organizations, the political atmosphere, the government interference or regulations that's available, the unions or non-union if you don't have one, the trade associations, competition. And the problem with stakeholders is that a lot of them have conflicting views. Your shareholders want you to maximize shareholder wealth. We learned that from the very first day of business school. But the environmental group down the street doesn't want you polluting the air. And so if maximizing shareholder wealth causes issues with you polluting the air, you're going to have conflicting stakeholders. So you have to be aware of that, and make sure that you have to be a friend to everybody, and you have to find a way to work within your system. And then the last is the firm itself and everything about the firm. And there's a whole bunch of models that I'm going to take you through that will help you analyze the firm. So that's Porter's Six Forces. This is the way it looks right here. This is what a decent Porter's Six Forces would look like, except for the fact that a lot more would go in the middle right here. But bargaining power suppliers, threat of potential entrants, bargaining power buyers, threat of substitute products, etc. So this is the same model, a little bit different view of it, but we're going to take you through these as we go on. Now, how does this affect the project you're going to do at the end of the term? Well, you need to write a paper that's 12 to 15 pages or so, and you need to pick a company that you're going to write about. And so when you write about that, you can use this model as a format for your paper if you like. It has to be an APA, and you have to have references at the bottom, but you can define the business, and you only need about a half page for that. Okay, at least in a research project. If this were your business at home, you would have a lot more than that because it's a bigger deal. But for your paper, the important elements for a research paper are the analysis and the implementation. That's what's important for your research paper. So the internal analysis, the external and internal analysis, Porter's Six Forces, and a couple models, 5 to 6 models counting Porter's, and SWOT, like maybe the financial and maybe the marketing and maybe the environmental. You do not have to use all the models I'm going to show you. In fact, you should never try to use all the models I'm going to show you. But all of them are tools, and when you see something that you like, then you should use it. So 5 to 7 pages of the analysis, forecasting is about a half page, identifying the strategy, maybe just a paragraph. Implementation, take your strengths and opportunities that you came up with up there in the analysis and talk about how you'd create a competitive advantage. And then be a manager and correct the weaknesses and threats. And then wrap it up with just a half page about the controls, and you've got a good paper. Now, how does it affect a strategic audit? A little bit different outline, but if you were doing a strategic audit, which you're not going to for this class, same thing. You would use the analysis and the implementation as the meat of your strategic audit. The analysis is always the meat of any strategic paper. A business plan you turn into the bank, the analysis needs to be strong. How does it affect the cases you do? You have 4 questions to answer for the case, okay? And so identify the problem. You can do that very shortly, 2 or 3 sentences. Define the issue right up front. Use a little bit of the define the business section, but not a lot. Number 2, the question number 2 is where you're going to put most of your time into case analysis. You're going to take that case and you're going to look at the analysis portion, start with Porter's Six Forces model, end with a SWOT, and use 3 to 5 of the models in between, just like you would do for your research paper. Maybe environmental analysis, maybe key success factors, maybe financial, maybe marketing, maybe value chain. Okay? And then then take the strengths and opportunities and create some proposed solutions. Okay? And then number 4, use the weaknesses and threats to talk about ways to fix those. Okay? And so let's move on. How does it affect your degree? Now that's a different story. Defining the business would be whatever it takes. You want to have a good mission, vision, values. You want all that defined, and your goals should be defined really well. So okay, the analysis section. It should be use as many models as possible if it's your own business. Whatever you need in forecasting, the strategy you would work on, and then the implementation you really work hard on. So this for your business could be you look at it and you say, how would I do all that work? And it's a lot of work, but it's really worth it because it can give you the competitive advantage to beat the competition in your area. Now, once you looked at that, let's go into the models that we have listed. Okay, remember, you don't use every model for a course. Okay, but you need to understand every model for the degree. You start out with, you want to know the strategy shaping factors in your organization. What is it that makes your industry go? Is it low interest rates? Is it price? What is it that makes your industry go? Is it economics, societal, competitive conditions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? The more you know about it, the better off you are. And then you also want to know, what are the dominant economic characteristics in my industry? A market size, competition, rivalry, market growth rate, customers, experience curve, economies of scale. What is it that makes my industry go? Now, I wouldn't use this model or the other one in your paper, but I would use it to run my business. This is the first two models I showed you, the dominant economic characteristics and the um, factors that drive your industry are so important for you understanding how to make your business do well. So one of the most important ones, and this is one model I would use in my analysis, both in the case studies and in your paper. The uh, all the things that affect the organization, uh, like the relationship between managers and employee relationships, technology. In today's world, we're changing technology all the time. Operations, financial capabilities, the structure of your organization. And don't forget the external environmental issues like the political issues, the regulatory, the legal, the societal, economic, global issues, history. So all these things are something that if you analyze each one of these areas and do a write-up, you can see this could be a lot of writing, but understanding this can make your business a success. The trend analysis, you're going to do an exercise this week, I think, on trend analysis. This is basically Clarence Mann's look at the same thing we just looked at, the environmental analysis, only with corporate social responsibility taken into consideration. Super important today. But what are the values and symbols and social identification of your company? I'm sorry. What's the workforce mindset, attitudes, practices? What's the culture like? The economic system? All these questions will help you analyze your company and drive you towards success. And this is Mann's model for the papers that I provided for you in the handouts. Um, Porter's value chain is a good look. I wouldn't use this in my paper, but I definitely use it for my company. Porter's looks at the primary activities, which is what gets your product to market. It's cradle to grave operations of your product. And then it looks at all the support activities, the secondary activities. How does the human resource department help you? How does technology help? You know, your body, you can break your arm and you can still function, but you're not 100%. You don't do things the way you wish you could do them. Companies the same way. If the human resource department's not doing their job, it's hard for production to get the product out and do it correctly because they don't have the right personnel or the right training. Um, the organizational behavior model of the company, you always have to look at the culture. We can get the widgets to work. Widgets will always work, but it's the culture that you have to work on. And you can't change a culture overnight. Um, the leadership of the company is where it starts, but there are several things that drive the culture. The formal organization is all the rules and policies and procedures that you have. The informal organization is the water cooler talk, you know, and the social organization is how do we get along in the workplace? We can hate each other for this 9 weeks and get through this class, but we can't work together and not like each other. And so it all leads to productivity. And a lot of companies, use this model to drive the mantle of their company. Formal organization, Big Blue, IBM. When you think of IBM, you think of formal. Do they have an informal social? Of course they do. Informal organization. When you think of informal, you think of Motorola, self-directed work teams. Do they have a formal and a social? You better believe it. Social. The social organization is so important. Southwest Airlines is they sing, they dance, they do all kinds of wear funny clothes. Do they have a formal organization? Of course, they have to. People die when planes go down, and your business goes out right away. Do they have an informal? Of course they do. But they use these for their public persona and drive their company and make it a success because of it. But it helps build the culture of the organization. Um, okay. The and as we go on, so we use the culture, and again, we're building this model. Okay. Boston Consulting Group model is one of my favorites. You can take the Boston Consulting Group model, and maybe the best example for a Boston Consulting Group model, the way you could use this is menus at Ruby Tuesdays or Applebee's or something like that. You know, if they take they add a new menu item like barbecue chicken. Everybody likes barbecue chicken. So it starts out down at the bottom corner, right-hand corner where the dog's at. It has low market growth. It has low market share. And right away, people love barbecue chicken, so it jumps all the way up to a question mark. It's got high market growth. You're comparing it against the other menu items in your menu, but it doesn't have a lot of market share yet. And then slowly but surely it moves over to the star where it's high market share, high market growth. And then it starts to drop usually. It could go down into the cash cow or it could go down over toward the dog area. Every one of these places are decision points. Do I change it around a little bit? Do I change the price a little bit? You know, how do I work with it so that it can improve? When do I make the decision to get rid of it? So if you look at Ruby Tuesdays, every time the waiter or waitress takes your order, they go back and put it in the computer. It goes in a big computer at Ruby Tuesdays headquarters, and it's being placed on here. And then the decisions are being made at headquarters as to which menu items they get rid of, which ones they improve, which ones they move. Same thing, if you substitute this product, they keep track of that, and they keep track of it, and this is the kind of model that they would use to keep track of it. So you can use this for a lot of different things in your organization. And then finance, all the different ratios. You can look at your profitability ratios, your asset utilization, liquidity, debt utilization. But even if you're not a financial guru, you can look at the income statement, balance sheets, and cash flows. They print those out multiple years. You can look for red flags and see if things are improving or not improving, and you can make inferences from those. So even if you don't have a big financial background, you should use the finance. The reason that I suggest sometimes that maybe you should pick a big company like McDonald's, Starbucks, is because our library has 2 or 3 databases, Standard & Poor's, Hoover's, and a couple other ones, that will do the profit rate, do all these ratios for you and provide a wealth of information on the company you choose. And so you can be a financial guru even if you're not a financial guru. So important for your paper, important for the case study, and really important for your business, okay? Another thing that you might want to always look at is key success factors. Every company has different key success factors, but this is a list of kind of generic key success factors that usually is visible in all companies, okay? But then you have to, maybe you change things to fit your company specific. But what is it that makes your company successful? What is it that you have to do and you have to do well if you're going to be successful? So the key success factor. And if you look at this, a competitive strength analysis, they've just taken the key success factors that you located and they have given them a rate. Now there's no magic book in the library that will give you these numbers. Some of them are from surveys, some of them are from historical data, some of them are just gut feelings of you, the manager, because you know your company. And if you look at it, ABC Company is yours, and they went through and rated all the items in their key success factors. And then they looked at Rival 1, and they felt like that you were better than Rival 1. They looked at Rival 2, and they felt like Rival 2 did a better job than you do. And then 3 and 4, we beat fairly handily. So your main competition is Rival 1 and Rival 2. Then you take the same competitive strength analysis with your key success factors, and based on what you know about your company and what's important to your company, you give them a weight. It has to be 0 to 1. It has to all sum up to 1. But if you look, relative cost position is really, really important. So it was given a 0.35. And then customer service capability, very important, given a 0.15. And then there were 4 areas with a 0.10 and a few areas with a 0.05, not as important. So when you do that, remember ABC Company, which is you, is 6.2. Remember, we beat Rival 1 without the weight. We lose pretty bad to Rival 1 with the weight. Relative cost position is important, and Rival 1 is beating us bad. Rival 2 is beating us, but not as bad as they did when you didn't have a weight. So the weight really becomes the most important way of looking at a competitive strength analysis. 4 P's of marketing, you want to look at product, price, promotion, and place, and everything you can muster about those 4 areas. So that's the critical model in marketing. You'll remember that from your marketing class. But you want to know everything about the product. You want to know everything about how you promote it. You want everything about your price. And then you want place. You want to know where you're located at, how you distribute, everything about it. So all this, again, you're thinking, how could I write all this? But if you want to be successful in a company, you really don't do it. You have your managers, the IT, the marketing, the human resource managers. When they report to you every month, they bring these reports to you so that you can compile the information in an area where you can use it to create a competitive advantage for your company. It's too important not to. Okay, and then there's the 4 P's of operations management: processes, people, parts, and plants. And so you're looking at all your processes that you do. You're looking at your people, what's their skill level, what's their training needs, etc. You're looking at the location of your plants or your offices or your stores or whatever you might have. And you're also looking at parts. In this case, it could be just supplies, but you're looking at processes, people, parts, and plants. Everything you can find out about that information. A strategic group map, I don't expect you to use this in your research paper. If you do, just make it symbolic, sort of a gut feeling. You can create the map, but you don't have to worry about accuracy. The big companies have companies that have people on staff that find this information to see how you stack up by price and product line against the other companies in your industry. And then you end it all with a good strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You want to create a very good strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as quantifiable as possible, as detailed as possible, because this is what drives the train for you to continue on. Then you've done that, you've done a good Porter 6 Forces analysis. You've created analysis with Porter 6 Forces. Now I want to emphasize, for your research paper, you only need to look at a few of these models. I'd say maybe the environmental analysis, possibly the key success factors, definitely finance, and then you might consider marketing or one of the other ones. But that's enough, because I don't want a 40-page paper. I want a 12 to 15-page double-spaced paper. And then your strategies, don't try to change the strategy. Just look at the strategies and do the best you can to identify the strategy of your company. And then forecast. Find your budget needs, your production goals, and what other needs you have for your company for the next year. That'll help you have a starting point. And then implementation. Take your strengths and opportunities to create a strategic advantage. Take your weakness and threats and correct those the best you can. And then the last part, controls. You measure everything you can and feed it right back into your analysis so that you always have good, up-to-date information. So that was the strategic management model. And I'm going to open it up to questions, but I wanted to go through there and I wanted to show you how it applies to your research paper. It applies to your research paper, your case studies, and it definitely, the most important thing of all this is it applies to everyday life in your business. So just one second.